Start.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the premiere of what is tentatively being called the Ryan Dixon Show, because I apparently am a terribly creative person that comes up with terribly creative titles. That is entirely going to be open to suggestion as time goes on. There's been a lot of play on, I guess, the last name Dixon and the wide variety of things that we can do with Dixon or Dixon, I guess. So,
Whoa.
and we're gonna be so if you're familiar with if you're familiar with radio in general.
And now you got the delay too.
Do I have delay?
Yeah, mute your speakers.
There it is.
Well, at least we know the microphones work.
So now that the microphones work, why don't you do a little camera test for our friends and show your lovely little face there, Mr. Leland.
Give me a second here, and
Leland, this is
how's it going, folks?
This is the guy that's
There we go.
That I'm locked in a dungeon with here, doing this show. He's the audio video. What am I going to call you?
I'll just call it the producer. I'll be your Stu, not your snurd. And we're back to you.
Okay. So I can see that there's. I can see that there's color on the thing. It lights up. It tells me when it's watching me. Unlike the NSA, which just we assume is constantly watching.
Well, it is a Google product that we're using.
Oh, Lord. Okay, so if you're familiar with radio in general, shows in general, you know that first broadcast, second broadcast, it's a lot like bringing something living into the world. The first broadcasts, of course, are a lot of whining and crying and screaming, and oftentimes covered in blood, and a terrible mess, and not very pretty to watch. So that's pretty much what we're going to have here tonight. But for the next 2 hours, if you can believe it, believe it. But it will, I imagine, that's the hope.
You might want to kill the stream on your end just so that we don't overload the internet.
It will improve as time goes on, and sort of slowly kind of get better, and hopefully better. And this is, of course, the lovely little studio. What do we call this? Studio A1?
It's, Studio 1A, Brave New Books Studio.
Yeah, so this is Brave New Books Studio. Of course, Brave New Books, for those of you if you're not familiar, this is a lovely little, and I guess I'll paint the scene here where we're at, what's happening this late night Wednesday, I guess July 2nd, I guess is the premiere. But if you're not familiar, it's being broadcast out of Austin, Texas, in a little bookstore that people flock the world over to, called Brave New Books. It's located just across from UT down here in Austin. And it brings in folks from all over. I kind of help out down here.
Across the world.
But
not just across the country, but across the world.
It is both a literal and figurative underground bookstore. It is also the strategically placed or curiously placed, I guess, underground, and we are actually kind of broadcasting underground here as well. In the still of the night, if you will, underneath, incidentally, a Chase Bank, and so we're situated underneath the Chase Bank, sort of undermining, and in the case of Bitcoin, literally mining underneath these sort of corrupt institutions, which, if you know your history, have done worlds of wonder for mankind. Of course, referring to the Federal Reserve System, so on and so forth, which I'm sure everybody is more than intimately familiar with at this point. But Leland, I guess you're going to be kind of my whipping boy in a sense for this. I don't know why you deal. Leland is. I guess we'll start introducing you.
Yeah.
Leland is you're an aspiring director, producer, right? You've done some films. We're gonna watch a film you did this 4th of July out at our friend's place, and that's gonna be interesting. So we've never seen it, but I assume there will be fireworks and a lot of alcohol and this movie. So I'm looking forward to that. But you're also one of the strangest people that I've ever met in my life. You sort of have a resemblance to sort of a slightly more portly Charles Manson.
Well, I don't have a swastika cut my.
Yeah, no, you don't have that, and I appreciate you don't. But because it's creepy enough, the fact that I'm sitting in a underground in a basement in the dark with you. You have a sort of a squatty appearance to you, and you kind of terrify people, but only initially. You have a weird thing where people, like, once people get to know you, and they kind of go, oh, okay, that's how Leland is. They kind of fall in love with you a little bit.
Well,
is that about right?
Well, yeah, because I basically tell the truth with everything. I don't embellish. Whoever says, "Oh, you did a great job," I go, "Are you sure?" You know, that kind of thing. Most people in my industry, they over exaggerate how great they are. I basically am very, very, very reserved. And actually, when someone says, "No, it actually is really good," I'm like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Okay, I guess it's actually not." Man, where is? Oh, there we are. The camera shifted. That's great. We're going to switch you for a second.
So, like I said, this is kind of how those first shows are going to go. Lots of where does this go? Is this my thing? What is that smell? So on and so forth. But
I didn't realize that we were broadcasting smell over the network, more or less.
In your case, I would not entirely doubt it. Nothing would surprise me. See, now you've got... Okay, I see what you did with the camera.
Yeah, I mean, it flopped over the last time. So.
Okay, wonderful. But I'm going to close that.
See,
actually, I can't watch me watching myself. It's
also like you also have a slight delay as well, and so this is what they call pilot season in the industry. They shoot an episode which usually doesn't air. With live shows, they do air, obviously, because there's no way around it. But that's why when you see a pilot for a famous series, more or less, that there's a lot of recasting and a lot of retooling, because it may it may sound good on paper and in someone's head, but when they actually make it, they're like, oh, that's...
I'm going to learn a lot about cinema just here with you, aren't I? Like, I'm going to learn more about the film industry than I want to know.
The fact that you already know that lighting makes...
Okay,
You already know about from some of the technical aspects on things.
No, that was just because my dad was a nut, obsessive about lighting. It was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. It was almost like an autistic, like, just sort of weird obsession with lighting in general. And that's where I got that, and I appreciate it. I do.
Well, I mean, just look at anything. You look at a nightclub downtown during the day when they just had the work lights on or daylight. It looks terrible. I mean, it's all. I mean, our studio does not look nearly as.
That's why we're shooting it. That's why
we're shooting it.
That's why we're shooting it in the dark. But I also thought it would be kind of appropriate for sort of a late night show.
Oh, of course.
So the show in general. First of all, there's another show that we do. Actually, there's a show that comes on right before this.
This is the third show actually that we're doing out of this studio.
Well, yeah, okay. But there's a show I do right before this called The Crypto Show, and we focus largely on technology and currency and anarchy, and which I'm kind of a huge advocate for all. And it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. But the whole reason I wanted to kind of do another show is that there are periods in which, like, my head in here is like, I'm not in control of it at all. It will just run out into the wild, and I have to try to chase it and say, wait for me, wait for me. And sometimes it comes up with something that's kind of interesting, that's kind of fun.
Well, other times, keep in mind with the way you phrase that. Keep in mind with the way you the creative type. So it's the kind of thing your energies go towards trying to make something that is visually appealing, not towards destroying.
I don't know that I would go so far as calling it creative as just.
But we don't need to have you
nutty.
But we don't need to have you in a straitjacket after this show. So.
It depends on who you ask. So anyway, but the whole kind of reason I want to do it is there's different elements that when people kind of stay on topic that I feel aren't injected, and I think that there is I tend to see things more in the abstract. I tend to see things less static. I tend to see things more less about like where are we, and more about where are we going? What velocity are we
Your
traveling
brain works
at?
like a
And
node, and it kind of, how do I say this? It visualizes everything, and it's like if you look at a node-based effects generating, like for example, you have this, and it points to that, and it links to the to a different node. And I get what you're coming from, because I actually think things out quite visually myself, and so.
The no, and that's kind of how I tend to be. But I mean, like with the crypto show, you've watched it, or listened to it. Yeah, because and this is also, I mean, it's not my first time doing radio, but it is my first time doing an audio video element to it, and so I'm not.
Video is just a whole nother can of worms.
And I'm not sure entirely how I feel about it. I mean, I'm kind of giving it a fair shake. It's like I feel like, here, have you tried this, whatever dish from, wherever, and I'm kind of going, okay, I'm going to reserve judgment, and I'm just going to give it a whirl. But the reason that I want to kind of take it this angle is there's certain things that I feel are kind of left out. For example, with I work in this sort of conspiracy theory, anarchist, libertarian sort of bookstore, which is an odd enough job in and of itself, and so I come across a lot of kind of interesting characters and everything. But to kind of add to that, also being kind of one of the stranger cities on Earth, but well, yeah, but. I look at it, and it doesn't seem like, it seems to me like a lot of this stuff, like it's very pocketed, and so there's sort of like the libertarian patriot sort of community that's kind of a constitutionalist fetishist sort of thing, and which I get, and I can appreciate. It was a marvelous piece of work, but then there's also sort of like the crypto anarchist sort of side of things that says, okay, no, we need to work on it from this angle, and sort of that Buckminster Fuller sort of don't sort of look to tamper with or change the existing system or refine it, just create a new model and allow people to kind of move over to that model. But there's a lot of different stuff. I mean, I was having this conversation with somebody today, for example, like some of the spiritual elements involved in some of this stuff. Like when I talk to people about this stuff, there's a tension that exists a lot of the times with them. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They come in, and it's sort of this Chicken Little sky is falling.
It's a territorial thing. I mean that's where it comes from, and people are also afraid to speak out because they're afraid that they're going to be blackballed or whatnot. I mean, you just look at every little camp, and there's a lot that we have in common. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of things that we liberals, quote unquote, pro-liberty conservatives, because we look, the terms have changed a lot throughout the years.
The thing that I notice is there's sort of this there's a fear element that seems to exist in the backdrop, and I take odds with it. To me, I look at it, and because at the core of it is this thing that kind of says, okay, so if we take the Liberty Group, for example, at any minute, guys with guns are going to storm down, and with guns drawn, and and martial law, for each and every boy and girl, right?
Well, it's not even that. I mean,
hold on, no, shut up. Let me do this.
Okay.
That's the first. I'm going to whip you a few times with this. But at some point, I may or may not throw a shoe.
I was going to say that they're afraid to speak outside the group.
To me, what the thing is there's this fear element that's at play. But what I like to kind of remind people is like, okay, well, let's talk about that. Like, what's the big fear? What's the end result, right? And it always ends up being the fear is death. Ultimately.
Good point.
Ultimately, at the end of it, the end of the road is always
the Blues Brothers is actually a very, very good representation of that, because think about it. What was Elwood Blues stopped for? A bunch of moving violations, Class C misdemeanors here in the state of Texas. What ended up happening is that
you going with
what I'm going is even something as simple as a speeding ticket. Something as simple as a speeding ticket it's not just a speeding ticket; it's a Class C misdemeanor. If you don't pay for it, guys with badges and guns go after you,
Okay.
and then they lock you in a cell, or they kill you. And so the Blues Brothers is an exaggeration of that.
Okay, all right, I see where. Okay, I see what you did. And yeah, but the thing is, and just cease immediately. I will. I swear. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rig this place up because you sometimes you run with it. You get the ball and you just keep going out of the stadium and into the parking lot.
I Forrest Gump it, right?
Yeah, no, you do. And I like the gusto. I do. I appreciate it.
Sort of like when you had me on the crypto show last week when I used the analogy of Good Will Hunting versus education.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to string up a rope with pulley systems, and I want to say either ice water or maybe rats. Or whatever else. When you get it going, I'm just going to give it a little. You're
probably going to need rats. You don't need to have all this. Yeah. You don't need to have all. And then switch, and you don't need to have all this stuff. You don't need to have all this stuff get all wet and shorts out. We don't have a radio show. Radio show.
So shut your hole. But like I said, he grows on you. I know you don't think it right now. Trust me, he really does. How many times have I told you that I can't imagine a world without you? I've told you
countless.
Yes. So you know I love you, even though I want to constantly beat you with your own shoes. You're
kind of drifting out of frame a little bit. You might want to bring your picture back.
Am I going somewhere?
No, I meant visually.
Okay, well, I don't know what that means entirely. I'm gonna have a Bill O'Reilly moment if you do that. But
we are doing it live.
Yeah. But getting back on topic once again, it's really, don't put me in that place. It's weird for me to have to chase myself back on track.
I realize that, but also I don't need to have half your face missing.
I'm gonna. Yeah. Anyway.
There we go.
But the thing is there's this fear of death, and what ends up, and I kind of like to draw that back. It's like, okay, but this is a thing that was going to occur anyway, and this is, I'd say, okay, so just there. This is a thing that was going to occur anyway, and I worked with kind of in-home healthcare for a while. I worked with this great old guy named Paul Gordon. Really, just an amazing old guy. Just stop. Just let me talk. Okay. This is what's going to get you beat with a shoe in the alley.
Well, I was going to say, it's like there's a lot of interesting folks.
In a voluntary, in a mutual kind of loving way. Yeah. But this great old guy, Paul Gordon, and he, he says, and we were talking about this stuff, and this is kind of when I went through that Chicken Little phase, and he says, and he kind of calmed it down and brought up a good point. He says, look, I've been in a couple of plane wrecks, I've been shot at, and I've been stabbed, and he's telling me this from this wheelchair with this cigarette dangling out of his mouth, and he says, I'll tell you the nice thing about death. He says, you only got to do it once, and you don't have to do it right. And when you're done, you have to clean up the mess. And he was like he kind of shrugged his shoulders about it, like it was kind of. But it brings up a good point. That's the end result, no matter what. That there's not a lot of there shouldn't be this big presence about that, the way that people make it out to be. And when you kind of get in that capacity, and you kind of go, okay. Maybe I'm making more of it than pay its proper respects, obviously, that kind of thing. But once I think you're kind of at peace with it, and this is also something that a lot of warrior class talk about, like the samurai and things like this, is sort of they are sort of the Walking Dead in a way. They're kind of living 3 steps ahead, but kind of already from the grave, and but it brings up an interesting point, because once you kind of accept that and kind of live that and kind of really kind of exist in that capacity, then what ends up happening is there's a couple of points. One, it makes you highly effective. It makes you a highly potent player on the battlefield of life, or to use, and I guess I'll rely on the Star Wars analogy, sort of the Empire versus the Rebellion, to use it broadly, but it makes you more effective because you don't have fear cluttering up your mind.
Because we all die anyways.
Well, and this is another point that I like to bring up to people, is that the other thing as it pertains to it is, people kind of get cluttered with fear, and they, and it kind of rattles them, or it, kind of keeps their, thought processes from really, really, like achieving that maximum potential. And what I end up kind of, seeing with it is that if I'm wrong, right? This is kind of the point that I like to look at. Is I like to look at things in a best case, worst case, right? Worst case scenario. Say I'm wrong, and that death's just kind of a big to do, and when you're done, you're worm food, and there's just absolutely nothing after the fact, right?
Right.
And we know that that's not the case because mushrooms. But like, and I encourage that, to be honest. But once you kind of have that understanding, then the worst case scenario, like let's suppose that I'm wrong, right? The worst case scenario is you had a people that you couldn't threaten with death, and isn't that exactly
the samurai?
No, I'm just talking about people in general. If that was a value that we had more of, I think that you would have a group of people, a body, largely speaking, that you couldn't threaten with death, and because you can't threaten them with death, I mean, that's exactly how we got to the situation where we're at now. Is government comes in and they say, okay, right, we've got the monopoly on violence. Everybody fall in line, otherwise we're going to beat you with our sticks and poke you with our javelins and lock you in a cage. And if you don't reply to that, then we'll kill you. And people go, oh well, I don't fancy death particularly, and so I guess I'll go ahead and give you my money or my children, or do whatever you want. Please just don't
Yeah, that's how war started.
But if the response was as such that the person said, well, then shit or get off the pot, like that changes the whole ball game. That changes the whole game. If they say, right, we're going to do this with threat you with that, then they kind of go, okay, and like, I mean, I see what you think. I see that you think that you can kill me and all this stuff, but I'm letting you know that I'm eternal in nature and all these things, right? If that was sort of the response that the individual had, was living from that spirit kind of aspect, then it changes the whole situation. And eventually it gets to a point where they kind of go, okay, well, we can't even threaten them with violent force. And so that's one way of sort of taking that off the table, is just kind of saying, then do it. Like, what do you, why are you talking about it? So that's kind of one angle on it, but and so, but also, again, like I said, is if I'm wrong, that's the worst case scenario, is you have people that are potent combatants, in terms of the chess game that is sort of this whole human drama, I guess. I mean, that's not like a person that you really want to go up against. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's a potent combatant.
He doesn't have any fears. That's what he doesn't have.
That's what the samurai was, for example. I mean, like, you don't want to go up against samurai. Like, why would you fuck with a samurai?
Yeah, they don't have any fear. I mean, in fact, it's honorable for them to actually go through the task and actually It's what Gene Roddenberry based the Klingon characters off of. It's honorable to actually go down without. I'm trying to think.
This is going to be a thing. I'm going to speak in Star Wars, and you're going to speak in Star Trek. Is that how this is going to go?
This might work.
Oh God, help us all. But
now, which Star Trek do you want? Do you want me to think in the most recent Star Trek?
I don't want you to speak in
the most recent Star Trek.
No, I don't.
The ones that were actually here's the funny thing: J.J. Abrams, he's directing both Star Trek and Star Wars.
What do you think about Abrams' thing? Do you think the Star Wars, the new stuff, because Disney got it, do you think it's going to be absolute crap, or do you think it's going to be any good?
Well, I'm switch back to my camera, so I got this opine. I don't think.
Keep it brief.
I will keep it brief, but here's the thing: J.J. Abrams, he likes using physical sets, and so you actually have interactions with the backgrounds. That was one of the huge criticisms of. Well, there's many criticisms of the prequels. One, because of the green screening, no one interacted with the sets; they just kind of walked. And then they just had shit happening in the background, and there was no reason for any of this stuff to happen in the background because they never interacted with it. Two, the story sucks, and that was the other thing with JJ, is that he made a point.
I like how you call him JJ. Well, like he's your neighbor.
I wish he was my neighbor, but anyway.
Okay.
Well, the thing is that he made a point of having a really strong narrative in the two Star Trek films he directed. He's not directing the next sequel, but he's still producing it. So, and plus we have Lawrence Kasdan back as the screenwriter. And so he directed, excuse me, he wrote what many people regard as the best installment of Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, which is the second one, which is really which is the fifth one, and don't ask.
Okay, so
back to you.
So your take is, because I didn't really glean anything from that. Is it going to be good or not?
I think it's going to be very good because I was very, very entertained with the other two, with the last two Star Trek films.
Okay, wait, never mind. Okay, I see what.
No, I was very entertained. No, I was.
I don't care at all about this. I'm a terrible, like, I know a lot of.
Well, physical sets means that the actors actually interact with their surroundings. So instead of just guys walking or sitting on a couch, you never saw the Plinkett reviews? Sitting on a couch, sitting on a couch, sitting on a couch.
What are you on about?
You never saw the Plinkett reviews.
No, I don't.
Or Star Trek Episode 4, or Star Trek Episode 3.
Okay, I'm shifting gears. I'm done with this.
Yeah,
I'm shifting gears. We're doing a hard shift right now. And I'm just going to kind of run on this for a little bit. And I swear, if you do what I think you're going to do.
What am I going to do? I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. I'm just looking.
Because I know you better. I am like your NSA. I know you better than you know yourself.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Think about it. Like, the NSA knows you better than you know yourself. If somebody says, "Hey, Ryan, what did you Google?" In September of 2000.
I was probably spell checking.
I don't know. I really don't. But that's kind of where
I use Google as a spell check.
So this came up across. I hadn't really heard much about this, but a friend of mine brought this up today. Let me know. Are you familiar with this Belle Knox? Do you know this? Do you know about this? Her name's Miriam Weeks. Belle Knox.
Explain it.
Okay, so this is the big to-do. So that's her porn star name is Belle Knox, right? BELLEKNOX, right? And her real name is Miriam Weeks, which both great names. But she's gotten a lot of flack. She's gotten a lot of to-do about the fact that she put herself through a fairly expensive college. I guess I don't remember which college it was, whatever, I guess Duke or something. I don't know. But she put herself through college by doing porn.
Wait. So there actually is someone that went to a decent college and paid for it with porn and stripping. It's not just an expression that you hear from every single one that even Chris Rock uses in a stand-up special.
But the thing is she's libertarian, right?
Right.
And she's highly libertarian. She's a good-looking girl. She did porn, right? To do this. Now, this is the thing that gets me is people come at her sideways on her decision to do pornography or whatever. This to me doesn't make any sense because here's the thing, it's a sexual act, right? And if you can agree voluntarily on the terms and conditions of like what you're going to do and won't do and who you will do it with and won't and
if you right? Especially you take the precaution to prevent conception, right?
And whatever don't do it. Let me do my thing.
Okay.
But you do this and you figure out a way. It's sex, first of all. A lot of people, last time I checked, there's a lot of people that are something of a fan. They say, "Hey, would you like a slice of sex?" Yeah, shit. Let me have seconds. And so there are people that are generally fans of sex, right? And the fact that she went and she took something that I presume she is generally a fan of, and she figured out how to turn a buck on it. Right? She figured out how to make money. Like, that would be like if I figured out a way, like, and people are hating on her for it. That would be like if I figured out a way to, like, turn drinking whiskey into $100,000 a year career. Like, and the only reason you get to hate on me if I figure out a way to do that is because, like, I figured out a way to pursue my passions and make it, pay and everything else.
But it's very intelligent because on top of which she doesn't have any student debt, which nowadays is 8.5%, and you can only get it these student loans from the government. So you're going to be what?
Oh, it's ridiculous. Everybody I know, that went through the whole traditional avenues and everything, like $100K, like $100K in debt, and
and you have to pay it off. You can't expel it with bankruptcy. You can't restructure it. And now, because the way things are structured, you have to go through the government, so you don't even get a good interest rate, even if you have good credit. It's a horrible, horrible setting.
If you're thinking about like just getting in, or if you know somebody that's thinking about just getting in, like tell them to do something else. Actually, this is okay. This gets to another point that I want to kind of address is. And I guess I've said it in the sense that, and I'll own this, I'm probably like the laziest anarchist or laziest anarcho-capitalist, laziest libertarian. Like, and I will gladly own that. I don't have any qualms. I don't make a big to do about it. Like, I'm not going to defend that position. Like, you know, because you talk to most anarcho-capitalists, right? And it's like, oh, you know, we build and produce and we share and we trade and da 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 da. And like, I come along and I'm like, I just want to sit here and drink whiskey. That's, you know, like I want to do that and talk and, you know, just generally, you know, maybe
tell
make a
that
joke.
to our competition. Tell that to Glenn. Tell that to Alex Jones. To Rush Limbaugh. Tell that to all these guys that make a ton of money just sitting and opining. And think about it. It's a lot of it is philosophizing. But do any of these guys have philosophy degrees? A philosophy. Think about it. A philosophy degree is one of the worthless things you could. No, because you're getting into debt. You're
okay.
And okay, there's history, but as you got lost when I use the analogy on Good Will Hunting, I think unless you're doing something like an engineering, unless you're doing something that
you really liked that movie, didn't you?
I really didn't. I haven't watched it in 10 years, but think about it. This is where Matt Damon and Ben Affleck cut their teeth. They got Oscars for the screenplay, and they really were making fun of the system.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. It's. I mean, I have a degree, and a lot of the folks that are at the bookstore
what do you have a degree in?
Radio, television, film.
Do you really?
Yeah.
You went briefly, and I dropped out. Fun fact: I actually had the same radio professor that Alex Jones had when he was at ACC. He actually quit the same year that I went. I gave this like damning thing on the FCC and like just the illegitimacy of the FCC.
So you drove him in the retirement.
And how much? No, God, I hate to think that I drove anybody to anything other than the store. But
even then, half the time it doesn't. Even then, half the time it really doesn't tend to happen, and we end up driving him to the store. So.
Yeah, well, there's that. But the point that I kind of get on is sort of how back-asswards it is culturally, right? So people go, and because most of the degrees, now I'm not saying everybody, but most of the degrees that people go for are for careers that, like, their 8-year-old self would just beat them with a stick. Like, if you went back in time, said, hey, 8-year-old self, you know, when I grow up, you know, we're gonna have this really cool stuff that's gonna happen, and then we got this one birthday, and it's gonna be great, and then we'll get a little older, and we'll go to college. Oh, really? What's college gonna be like? And then you're gonna tell
Animal House.
Yeah, and you're gonna tell your 8-year-old self, you know, oh well, we're going to go for you know, legal, like, admin assistant, you know, just some whatever, like some crap that nobody cares about.
And as much as we go off on accredited universities, at least there's still something backing up. You have all these little trade schools that they advertise like crazy on TV, like ITT. Those are just money down the drain. I mean,
well, yeah.
I mean, those are like you. Medical assistant, dental hygiene.
Can I smoke this e-cig on does that?
I don't see why not. There's no ordinance in the city of Austin yet.
It's not copyrighted or anything like that. It's just
it's water vapor. Let's try it.
I'm just curious.
It's not terribly sounding.
What is it? Does it look terrible though?
Well, I can't really. Well, I'm in the settings screen because that's how we switch between the two cameras. Here, let me get out of the settings real quick. Do it again.
I don't think you're in the settings screen.
No, I
think you're still looking at Bell Knox over there.
Let's see.
What do you think? Does that look terrible? I have no idea.
Well,
I'm just like, I mean, it's like bringing a puppy home. I'm smelling around. I'm seeing what I can get away with.
I wish you could turn the autofocuses off on these cameras. I mean,
I'm sure there's a way. Anyway, I'll try to keep that to a minimum. I'll wait until you go.
Well, it's not bad.
But what the hell was I going on about?
We were talking about. No, you distracted yourself. We were talking about. We were talking about money down the technical. What the hell is it? Technical schools that really don't do anything like ITT Tech or.
Stop. I got it. Thank you. You're yeah. Okay, so but that kind of illustrates it. Like, I mean, most of the time people have this very sort of, they chase the money. Is essentially, it's the paper chase, right? So people get out and they try to they pursue these careers for jobs that they don't want. But I mean, because you say, well, what are you going for? They go, oh, I'm going for business admin, right? And it's like, well, bullshit. Like, you didn't want to be a business administrator. You didn't. That's not what you wanted to do when you were a kid. What did you want to do? It's like, oh, well, I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be a whatever, right? And it's like, well, why don't you, like, is that still, like, it's like, yeah, I'd rather be doing this. Like, the fact that there's bumper stickers that exist that say, I'd rather be doing this, like, why aren't you doing it?
Well, there's two things, and let me switch back to my camera for.
Because you can make money. You can make money doing it.
Right, exactly. But there's two things about this. One, it's a generational thing, because keep in mind that the baby boomers, a lot of them have postdoctorate educations, PhDs and whatnot, because a lot of them went to college and went to grad school just to get out of the draft. And then when they had kids, it goes like, well, I have a PhD, so my kid's got to at least get a bachelor's degree in something. I don't care if he goes into debt.
Oh, yeah,
and also keep in mind that about 10 years ago was when a lot of public universities, including the one across the street from here, University of Texas at Austin, deregulated their tuition. And so they became a lot less affordable compared to private institutions, which, getting back to scholarships and government granting, that artificially drives the cost up of anything. Healthcare. Look at Obamacare. Oh, you're going to keep your.
You said it was going to be like for 30 seconds.
Well, it seems that, but you follow where I'm coming from, right?
Yeah.
And so you're artificially raising the price floor because you're putting in artificial stimulants left and right.
Okay,
the entertainment industry's suffering from this. And the thing is that getting back to making money, the thing is that all these internet channels like what we're doing, well, not just what we're doing. It's oversaturation. So the thing is, it's harder to stand out because you just have an oversaturation of people that think they know what they're doing, but they're not.
But I think that if you pursue what it is that you want to do, because here's the other side of it, you don't know when you're going to die.
No, you don't.
Like, it's not like you tip your self upside down and look on the bottom of your feet and it's like, oh, there's my expiration date. I'm good for 2 more years. Like, that's not a thing that happens.
Yeah, are you just letting days, weeks, months, years go by and nothing happens?
So it's kind of like, and yeah, you have to achieve that core of balance, but I think that there's a way to pursue those things that you want to do. Because, and actually, this brings me to another one. I don't know if you saw this or not, but Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey actually recently, there was some thing that he did, and I thought that it was really kind of brilliant. It was some like graduation speech or something like that, but he brought up this good point. He says,
wait, no,
stop.
Are you sure it wasn't Ashton Kutcher?
No, it was Jim
Carrey.
Yes, I know the difference between Jim Carrey and Ashton Kutcher.
Okay.
But anyway, he's given this graduation speech, and he says, look, my dad came over, he got this job, it's this job that he didn't want to do, but he worked really hard, and he worked his way up, and then one day, like...
And was the Ashton Kutcher.
And then one day, the company went bankrupt, right? And I'm going to bet you Bitcoin, but anyway, he says, look, but I went off and I, did this whole acting gig, that's what I wanted to do. And he says, look, but the whole point is that you can, people are afraid of failing at what it is that they want to do, right? And he says, but an important point to remember is that you can also fail at the things you don't want to do. And if that's the case, then it stands to reason that if there's the potential for failure at something, why not have it be at something that you enjoy doing? And I think that that's probably a pretty good thing to kind of like, I mean, for me, for example, I never I didn't really do the high school thing. Like, I dropped out of high school. I went and did like the GED thing just so mom didn't feel like she was a failure or whatever. And then I did a little bit of college just to say, like, oh, I had the experience, but none of it ever really had much draw to me, because I looked at it as I knew what I wanted to do, like, in the 3rd grade. Like, as far as, on from the 3rd grade, like, I remember there was a class and they were trying to justify some, whatever it was that they were teaching.
Education is just way too structured. The fact that they're going more structured by the time Common Core
right.
is a very good.
I'm not chasing that fucking rabbit. But
well, the fact is that you used to be able, if you were intelligent enough, you used to be able to skip grades. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah. But I remember I was in the third grade, and I remember they were trying to, I forget what it was, or whatever and I remember kind of questioning the teacher on it. And this is, I mean, these issues started from day one with authority figures or whatever. But I said, look, I don't understand why I have to prove to you that I know the things that I know, and that I don't have any use for this. He says, and of course he did the kind of like public education routine.
The Pythagorean.
He says,
theory,
oh
right?
well, yeah, but if you what do you want to do when you grow up? And then like, I'm an adult, I'm clever, I'll weave this to that. And I was like, well, to be honest, I was like either something in acting or stand up. And that was in the third grade though. And I looked at it and I told him, I was like, I need to know how to read, write, add, and subtract for that. Other than that, I need to know how to communicate. I need a voice box.
Here's something of interest. You look across the street. You look at all the buildings that are named after all these wealthy, successful individuals. Michael Dell, Bill Gates. They all dropped out of college, and yet and also Steve Jobs giving about 10 years ago. He gave a graduation presentation, and he actually more or less said to higher education.
So. Bringing it back because it's not terribly off trick, but the thing is I mean, like in my case, that's what I wanted to do, and now I'm starting to look at it. Being as lazy as I'm in, it's only kind of by providence that because I've been so lazy that I'm kind of forced in this position of like I have to do this, you know what I mean? Like I have to write the jokes down, and I have to actually kind of weave the material together and go and perform it on stage and blah blah blah.
But if you wanted to be a stand-up comedian back when you were 10, that was what, 20 years ago. That could have been 20 years. You could have been stand-up comedian.
Yeah, no, I could have. Yeah, but the thing is I don't know, and maybe you go through whatever paths. Maybe there's some degree of providence about life or whatever. But anyway, but now that's where it's at. It's like either I do this, or maybe I go see talk to Belle Knox and see if she knows anybody that's hiring. I mean,
the big question is that is she going to pursue a career that she got her degree in, or is she going to just continue doing porn for the foreseeable future?
That's actually, can you look that up? Can you see what it is?
Well, the thing is, I'm afraid to do that because we're on the broadcast computer. I don't want to crash it.
You're not going to crash it by web browsing. Just look it up. You're afraid to look it up because you go, wow, she's hot, and then you're going to sit there looking at her pictures and forget that we're doing a broadcast.
Yeah, hopefully we don't crash the stream.
Don't you lie to me.
Well,
just see what she got her degree.
All right, I mean, we had the camera on me, so let's see.
No, not on you. Put it back on me.
Well, see, this is the problem, and so I have to switch it back and.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I told you. Now put the camera back. Come here. What are you doing?
Give me a second here. Let me switch it back.
You were the.
All right, we're back. Yeah. Okay.
I do, Leland. I don't. You know what I think it is. You know why I think I like you because I have a slightly masochistic tendency.
Okay, so what did you want me to look up about Belle Knox?
I just want you to find out what her degree is.
Belle Knox.
What she got a degree in.
Degree.
That's what I want to find out.
And we're using Yahoo, so it's probably not going to tell me.
So,
Duke porn star Belle Knox says she wants to help sex workers.
See that? Why?
Wait. She wants to help sex workers by bankrolling a law degree.
Okay.
So she wants to be a public. So
she's libertarian. She wants to come to the aid of people that are.
That's not a social worker. That's actually law. So.
But she wants to come to the aid of people that law is sort of trampling on, that are in industries that are perfectly, I mean, like. I've sat down at tables where, we've had the dialogue and they, the individual kind of comes out and says, oh, well, this is what I do for a living. And they're, it turns out they're a prostitute, right? And to be honest, like, I ran for state senate. Okay, so that's something we haven't even shared with the audience yet. I ran for state senate here in Texas.
And you got, what, 20%, 25% of the vote?
Yeah, it was like 20 or 25 or something like that. I forget.
And that's this jerk named Kirk Watson, who gave us, what, a 70% tax increase for this stupid medical school?
I'm not even going to pay him any attention. Please don't bring that up. But it's interesting because I ran for state senate, but the people's reactions to it, and I would actually kind of scold people on it, although, not scold them, but kind of correct them, I guess, or whatever. And so, oh yeah, oh really, you're running for oh wow, and they'd kind of lean in and get
I voted for
interested,
you.
and they'd get interested in the conversation. But what I would have to impart on people is I was like, no, you must have heard me wrong. I said I'm running for an elected office seat. I'm running for state senate. And they kind of catch them off guard and they'd say, look, how am I any less capable of any of the violent acts of man? Is it because of the halo over my head or the wings sprouting out of my back? And it kind of, oh, well, I was like, yeah, exactly. So what I'm telling you is that I am seeking a monopoly on violent force. That should immediately, like, you should grab your children and, hide your wife, hide your kids, right? Because that should be a signal to you that there's some degree maybe of sociopathy or something not right with an individual if they are seeking power, particularly a monopoly on power. And when you kind of put it in those terms for people, it's like, that is kind of, it's like, yeah, that's, don't.
And then you get reelected, and then you run for reelection.
I'm not running. I just kind of did it to get out there and to kind of,
Well, that would have been interesting last session.
No, oh God, I'd probably be in jail right now if they had actually elected me.
Just imagine if you picked me as your chief of staff.
No, don't start. I'm not playing Fantasyland here. But at any rate, but getting back to the point, man, you are really you push trains off of the tracks like you're like Hercules with this thing. It's amazing.
It's amazing I can just keep track of anything up there, to be honest with you, because and then I have to basically kind of pull it all together and say, okay, what'd you get to your point is like, okay, here, there, and there, and they all combine to here.
Okay. Okay. So getting back to where I was before, I don't know where the hell you led us. But getting back to it, but I sat down and it kind of comes out that, oh well, I'm a prostitute, right?
Right.
And I told her though, I was like, but that's, I was like, well, to be honest with you, I've got a lot more respect for that line of work than I do for anybody in.
Well, I also respect the fact she told the truth, because like I said earlier in the broadcast, how many, and Chris Rock
Okay,
uses,
stop it. I'm gonna beat you with your own shoes. What kind of shoes are you wearing?
One's a steel toe, so they would hurt a lot, wouldn't they?
Okay, keep that in mind. But no, I told her, I was like, look, that's actually pretty admirable. It's a voluntary line of work. You're exchanging services. You're doing something that you enjoy doing, I presume. Otherwise, you'd probably be doing something else. And but people kind of they give it a lot more. They give it a lot more credit than it's due, or I guess it's the religion, the government worship thing. It's this, and like when I talk to people when they come in the bookstore, because I sell anarchy to people. They come in and I kind of throw them off kilter with it. I go, well, how is it not religion? Because it is. That's exactly what it is. You have all the same. If it's not religion, show it to me. Because I tell them, it's like if I sit down with somebody that's, devoutly conservative Christian or whatever, and I go, okay, great, I don't believe in God, show me God. And it's like, well, you can't. You can show me, ink and pulp and robes and buildings and, all these fun little things, but you can't show me the thing itself. And so
that's actually a very Judeo philosophy on it.
But if I say,
because it's the Christian aspect where they kind of.
But if I tell people, show me government, it's the exact same situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Robes and rituals, cast a spell, cast a ballot. It's buildings, congregations of people.
At the end of the day, it's people enforcing it, because the government by itself cannot enforce it, because without people, there's no government.
But you're not showing me the thing itself, right? And so, and the thing that I like to get to is that at least on the side of religion, and that's not. I'm not saying that I'm atheist. I'm kind of this weird. I don't know. We'll get into that another time. but at least on the side of religion, you can kind of go, okay, well, here's this sort of quantum physics and quantum mechanics and superstring theory, and here's the evidence that we can kind of put together to support this idea that everything is made of energy, right? That all that energy is connected both on a macrocosmic and microcosmic scale, spanning time, and that it never ceases to exist. It just kind of transfer shape and ebbs and flows, right? And then you can kind of take that, and you can kind of take the consciousness stuff, and you can kind of blend all of it together and sort of get this scientific sort of basis for the existence of God, right? You can kind of back it up a little bit here and there. I mean, I'm not saying you can come out and just be like, yep, God exists, science says so, right? But I'm saying, like, you can kind of make some argument.
I don't even think it's the God aspect. I think,
but religion. But but I mean, the religion of man, the religion of government. Like, okay, great. What what does science say? Say to you about the existence of this thing you call government? Well, and then it's a field of crickets chirping, right? And to me, that's kind of my interpretation. Like, I mean, if you take the common one in the U.S., if you take Christianity, that whole render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, but the Lord the Lord's. That's kind of how I interpret it. Is he's kind of saying, look, what about the taxes? He's like, oh, God, like, sure, dude. Like, if you seriously think that that's a thing, go right ahead. What I'm saying is that there's the religion of man, and there is sort of the, religion of the divine, or whatever you want to call it, the force or God. Or
here's something of interest to think about. Every one of these countries that goes through some type of revolution or spring, they always end up with something that's more totalitarian than when they left. Cuba, the Middle East, Russia, Eastern Europe with the whole Bolshevik revolution. It always you always have this, okay, it's anarchy, and then it immediately goes to hyperstructuralism, which is even worse than it was before. I mean, here's the question: Does society just have a natural act of wanting someone else to rule them, more or less?
I don't think that that's what it is. I think it's just kind of an evolutionary process. And I do think that, the other day we had Jeffrey Tucker, not the other day, I guess it was a few weeks ago, at one of the Alliance of Austin Agorist meetings that our friend Joel Williamson puts together. He joined us via Skype to kind of discuss, agorism and anarchy and these things. And it was interesting because Joel and Jeffrey were having a discussion. They were having a dialogue, and it was the first time I'd really seen it and heard it this way. But it was very matter of fact, just very matter of factly, that anarchism was, in stateless society, was the next sort of evolutionary thing that was going to happen. And it was said in such a fashion that it was said in this fashion that was very, just very matter of factly, and then it was echoed. And I sat there and I thought about it. I was like there was no ifs, ands, or buts. It was just sort of like if you get, spill some water on something, it becomes wet. Like,
well, even the United States, was it the 239th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence? And if you look at what we declared if you read the actual Declaration of Independence, we've declared our independence from the tyrannicalism of the king, and then we got the Articles of Confederation, and then people view that as, oh, well, that's not enough government, so we need to get the Constitution. And then they've added amendment after amendment to some good, well, the first 10 and the 13th, obviously those are very good, but then you have, the 16th Amendment, the Federal Reserve Amendment? It's getting more and more structured. Think about it.
Well, but here's the thing is, and that actually brings up an interesting point, and this is something that I like to, and this actually rings really true. Like, if you have,
there was no income tax on it.
If you have a lot of kind of constitutional, constitution fetishists that the libertarians that are just, if we just get back to the Constitution, right? Okay, great. Well, something that I kind of like to, that I've been using and I've found is fairly sort of thought inspiring, I guess, maybe, and some of these people that I talk to, is this sort of, you are really loud over there.
Well, I'm actually bringing up the Declaration of Independence.
Okay.
You don't mind if I read it off air on air?
No, I do. I do mind if you read it on air.
Well, I'll pick and choose the
No,
parts
you will not pick and choose. I swear.
I assume it's public domain. I assume they don't have a copyright of the Declaration of Independence.
Don't put anything past government.
Oh, good.
No, but listen, the whole constitutionalist fetishist thing. This is something that I kind of like to get across to them, because a lot of people, well, if we just get back to the Constitution, we just do this and da 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 da. I don't. I guess what I like to kind of get across to them, what I like to ask is, I say, well, look, man, what's more important? Is it fidelity to the Constitution that's the important thing, or is it fidelity to the spirit that gave it birth? And if you think about that for a second,
the preamble actually says it quite well. You don't mind?
Go ahead.
Okay, let me switch the cameras over to this. The preamble of the Declaration of Independence. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the power of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and to the natures of gods entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare causes which impel them to the separation.
Okay.
I mean, that pretty much says it right then there.
Well, and that's kind of the thing is, I mean, what I like to kind of ask them about, the libertarian type when they come in, it's like, well, what's more important? Is it fidelity to the Constitution, or is it fidelity to the spirit that birthed it? Because when you think about the founding fathers, and it's not me taking a swipe at the founding fathers of the Constitution at all. I think it was a marvelous step forward in human history. It's a fantastic document, and it was fairly brilliant. But the thing with it is that the founding fathers didn't have like a fidelity to the Constitution. That's not what they were fighting for. They were, they were fighting for it was a fidelity to the spirit of it. And I mean, otherwise, we'd still be, woo, Magna Carta Day.
Well, think about the bill. The reason why they're called the first 10 amendments is because they were literally the first 10 add-ons of the Constitution. And that's why a lot of people say those are not rights instilled in the document, but God-given rights that were always there instilled us by our Creator.
Well, I think I like the way Doug Hope says it. You know what I mean? It's that he says, that you're born. I think it's kind of a brilliant, bit. Is he says, look, you're born free. You're born absolutely free. And kind of paraphrasing it here, he says, look. If you, he says, basically you get fucked out of half of everything that you are free to do, and then you wave a flag celebrating the other half. He says that's not freedom. It's, those aren't laws. The laws are, if you drink, you get drunk, and you sit on a tack, you bleed from the ass. That whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's not, you don't have freedom of speech. Like you are free to speak because you have a voice.
God gave you a sort of lips, a tongue, teeth, and vocal cords.
Yeah. But so this is, we're coming up on, I guess, top of the hour here on Voluntary Virtues Network. Myself, Ryan Dixon, and of course the curious case that is Leland Freeman.
And as soon as I switch to the camera, it goes out of focus. Ain't that
it doesn't like you. Bring it back. But anyway, there was something actually I was going to bring up. In fact, this was actually kind of a generous thing. A buddy of mine, in fact, I'm going to pull this out right now. Actually, he's really one of the smartest guys I know.
Hold it up to the camera because people can't see it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to be able to see it in this dark. Can you?
Let's see here.
I don't know if you can.
Hold it down. There you go.
Can you see that?
Oh, there it is. Hold that. Right there.
Can you see it?
Yeah, you can actually make out sort of that's a QR code, right?
Yeah. So this is what I'm holding is 1 troy ounce of silver. And this was actually a brilliant creation from a friend of mine, a guy named Arlo. And he's over at Commodity Discs. It's, I believe, commoditydiscs.com. And it's kind of a brilliant thing because here's this ounce of silver, but you've got a QR code embedded in it, which actually gives you feedback on the real-time value of silver at the moment that it's scanned. And right now, actually, he's while we were talking about the show, he was actually the one that kind of encouraged me to kind of do the show. He says, "Look, this is something I think you should do." And apparently, I'm that manipulatable. Is that a word? Manipulable? Yeah, manipulable. He says this is something you should do and everything, but he said, look, he's done this with other people. Is if you want to, you're welcome to. You can email myself. It's Ryan Dixon can be reached at gmail.com. Again, Ryan Dixon can be reached at gmail.com. And what we'll do is, if you want to donate $100 towards the show to kind of help with equipment and bandwidth and all this fun stuff, then maybe a shot collar for Leland. That was actually a recommendation somebody sent me. But also they sent you love. It was a little huggy face.
I have a feeling face. I know who this person is.
Yeah, you do. Anyway, if you donate $100
well,
to the
if you
show,
had a QR code to hold up to the camera.
what we will do is I don't know if you can see it or not, but we'll go ahead and we'll get you situated with one of these limited edition. I think he made maybe 2,000 of these things total of these commodity discs. You can check them out. It's commoditydiscs.com. You can get a pretty good price on them, pretty fair deal, and it's supporting a really kind of a brilliant guy. And
it's pure silver, like 99 pure.
Yeah, it's absolutely pure. And you can go take a look at it again, commoditydiscs.com. So I thought that was kind of cool. That going on that we had the first individual that kind of got behind it that says, hey, I can kind of help out this way, and kind of help sponsor and kind of push the show a little bit in that direction. So, but yeah. So getting kind of back to things, because I guess we're kind of.
What were we talking
about?
Well, we already
ate up an hour here, and most of it was with you going on about I don't even know what. Hey, can you
yeah,
in the camera, because I can't see what you're saying.
Right.
Are my luscious sexy legs showing up in?
Give me a second here. Yeah, they are a little bit.
Are they?
They are a little bit.
Okay, I don't really want that.
Well then.
Then I'm gonna have to move. Okay, yeah. Is that better?
The lower part still. Maybe turn. Yeah, that kind of mostly hides it.
Now. Turn to the left. Turn to the right. Turn to the left.
Maybe just put something on top of it.
Yeah.
Shake all about that kind of thing.
You tell him that I think he's a damn fool, Ed. One of the greatest movies of all time. Anyway, there was a number of different ones that I kind of wanted to get into. I don't know if we hit on this Bell Knox thing as much as I wanted to. Oh, shit, that reminds me. The another thing that I wanted to kind of get into that I've been kind of on about today is this. Let's talk about drugs for a second. Because
you were talking about that on your last show too, about the drug war specifically.
Yeah, just about this bullshit situation that is, because I'm not like a big small victories guy. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Hey, you're invited to the small victories party. We're gonna do, yay, we did it.
It was like I don't, and then we don't get the big one.
I don't get in with that backslapping.
Oh, it's horrible
crap. Because to me,
it's a compromise.
Well, here's the thing. I look at it and it's like, okay, so we take the legalization of marijuana in Colorado.
It's not really legal.
And Washington.
But it's not really legalization. It's just a form of decriminalization. And,
but
they use it as a taxation.
So but the fucking point is, you can walk around with a joint in your mouth, in front of a cop, and blow him a hit, and tell him to give you a kiss. Anyway,
can you actually smoke publicly? I thought it was just in your private.
Let's just say you can.
Okay,
shit,
all right.
Stop. All right. Why do you do this? Why do you?
Well, I'm just.
You're like a house cat. Like you puke in my slippers. Why are you?
Why I say that is it's a small the whole small victory thing. It's like, okay, so you can buy it from a pot shop, but can you actually still smoke it like a cigarette outside?
you can smoke it. Your friends smoke it. Anyway, here's the deal. And this is what kind of gets me, is there's a lot of backslapping and a lot of to-do about all this whole situation with pot being legal in Washington and Colorado, right? And then of course there was a joke like, oh, the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks, they go to the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay, so haha, very funny, right? Cute. But this is what kind of gets me, is like everybody wants to make this big fucking parade about it, and I don't get on with it because I go, okay. Somebody says, oh yeah, it's legal in Colorado and Washington. I'm like, okay, but what if I want to do mushrooms in Texas? What if I want to go to New Mexico and kind of, have some spiritual experience on peyote? What if I want to do cocaine in California? What if I want
the 10th Amendment. Does it preempt federal law? It's still not.
This is gonna get you a but the whole thing, because you derail my thoughts, man.
But you want to
No,
smoke.
I'm gonna ball gag you. I swear to God, I've got ball gags at home.
So you want to do what you want to do outside of Washington and Colorado, but guess what? It still doesn't preempt the federal law either.
Okay, yeah, but here's the thing. They go, okay, great, you can go and you can do that now. Okay, fantastic, great. Suppose you can, wonderful. But here's the thing. Pot's been illegal since 1937. Think about that. That's 77 years now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that my math right?
And it was a racist law too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, there was that. But so it's been almost 80 years, and it's just pot, and it's just in 2 of the 52 states. So what that means is that it took. And this is what I kind of try to get across to people, is this bullshit political processes argument. And I'm not saying that I'm a silver bullet theory where, it's like, oh, if everybody would just do this one thing. Well, no, if everybody just did the one thing, then everything else wouldn't be getting done, and a lot of terrible shit would happen, right? Okay, so the problem with the situation, though, is that looking at it, it's like, great, okay, so it took you 80 years to legalize about 1% of the drugs that can be done in about 4% of the places in the U.S. that you can do them.
It's complacency.
And this is a big, like, we're going to pat ourselves on the back. Well, bullshit, man. What are you talking about? 80 years to do that? Well, you realize what that would be like. That's like
we've had the Federal Reserve for 100 years.
That's like if you took, oh wow, they did turn the AC on in here. I'll be damned. That would be like if you ended up. Is
this a dating analogy where you spent 20 years trying to date the same girl and she gives you a hug afterwards?
No, this is what this is if you ordered 2 large pizzas on a Friday night.
Right.
And a bottle of, like a 2-liter of soda, and some cinnamon sticks and some cheesy bread, and maybe some wings or whatever they carry locally. And so you go ahead and you order that. It's Friday night, 8 o'clock. That would be like if Sunday afternoon the guy shows up on your door, knocks on the door, and says, hey, I brought you a can of anchovies. That'll be $48.50. And then, like, you've got to tip the guy, you know what I mean? And go, ooh, this pizza place is the best.
Not even anchovies, just a packet of Parmesan cheese.
Yeah. It's I
mean, think about it. That's what it really is, just a packet of Parmesan cheese.
Yeah, pretty much. I got a message actually from Arlo. I'm gonna have to look at that here in a second. Oh, okay, yeah, this is what he's saying. He was just saying, hey, thanks about the commodity disc thing. He was checking it out. But he says if you want to get a hold of one of those commodity discs, the other thing is he's got a minimum on them of 10. So if you do want to get a hold of one of those commodity discs, I totally forgot to mention that earlier. If you do want to get a hold of one of these lovely little gems, you can order a minimum of 10, or if you want, you can donate $100 to the show and Voluntary Virtues Network here and receive yourself one of these units. Our little gift to you, a thank you, so that I can buy whatever kind of ball gags and shot collars and Lord knows what else I need to keep Leland in line. But anyway, we were what were we going on about before?
You were talking about how you're not a part of
the whole
little victory thing, and then you order all this stuff at a pizza place, and they give you a packet of Parmesan cheese 2 months later, and you have to pay inflation on it.
Right, the Parmesan technology, great. I don't understand how that can be. Here's the thing: is you've got this took 80 years to do this. This is not reason for celebration.
No.
This is reason for sitting yourself in the corner, like in the corner of shame. Wear the shame hat. Look at the corner. You know, because it's shame on you that it took 80 years and all that destructive capacity of the state to legalize 1% of the drugs in 4% of the
Or our
places.
monetary policy,
That's terrible.
It's been over 100 years since the Federal Reserve.
Meanwhile,
16th Amendment.
I don't. Yeah.
And then you have these cats abolish the IRS, and yet they've had it since what, 1916, 17, something like that.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
You have this character by the name of Dread Pirate Roberts, and he essentially sort of creates this system, or initiates this system, that called the Silk Road, which allows individuals to buy and sell, and it creates sort of an escrow system and all these different things for drugs. Now, whatever your take is on drugs, whether you're for them, against them, whatever, but the fact is essentially he was this Dread Pirate Roberts character was creating a what is the sort of the beginning, is sort of the Napster of what will be, what is to come. And this took like a week or something like that, but
this is all your end.
I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, whatever. But the thing is this guy is a market hero. This guy is absolutely a market hero. He, and everybody's big to do that they make about it and this is kind of the area that kind of, people kind of get a little sticky in, is they kind of go, oh, well, that murder for hire thing. Well, bullshit. Hold on. This murder for hire thing is a load of crap, because if I've sat down with Lynn, with his mother before. We've had her join us via Skype, and we've had her on the show before. We've, all this different stuff. She's a terribly sweet lady, but we've talked to her directly, and they didn't mention they denied him bail on the grounds of these supposed murder for hire things, but then they didn't even bring it up in the formal charges against him. And so it's like, well, wait a minute, hold on. This seems like it's more of a thing to condemn in the court of public opinion rather than you actually having anything on the guy. It seems like more of the government trying to kind of protect its own racket, the CIA and the DEA, of course, to sort of protect their own drug running racket that they've kind of got going on. And because because the thing is if that continues, if that sort of Napster of exchange evolves into what is today sort of this, peer-to-peer file sharing, Pirate Bay type of thing.
So you really want Apple to basically because that's what Napster evolved into, is then Apple more or less they took that kind of idea and then they created the iTunes store. So
yeah, but I'm not talking about iTunes. I'm talking the fact that I can, on a peer-to-peer network, I can digitally exchange anything in a digital capacity, including but not limited to 3D guns.
Right, it's information.
I mean, yeah, it's information.
I mean, until they can do physical matter, though, that's just information that could be constructed with a printer.
Yeah, but it pretty much is. I mean, and now I can
until you get atomic and molecular printers.
Well,
I mean, you can't. It'll be nice one of these days when you have something. Here we go with this Star Trek reference, the replicator.
Oh, you're gonna get me on the Star Trek. I'm gonna take you to a convention and leave you there. But the thing is there's clearly nothing behind those charges. There's it's all just bunk. This is stuff that they made up because none of these murders have ever occurred. There is, and there's actually been articles now that have been done that show that it was resulted in a net decrease in violence associated with the drug trade. It suffered.
Well,
it was a net decrease.
I can tell you exactly why he probably got arrested. Is because.
Well, no, you don't know that.
Well, the thing is
stop.
That they're
stop.
What
now? Listen.
If you look at where drug money is laundered.
Stop now. Stop now. Okay. Where was that? But the thing is we don't know if he's been arrested. No idea.
Right.
We know that Ross has been arrested,
right.
But we don't know that. I mean, here's the thing: is judging on the more you examine the case, the more you look at it, the more it looks like it's not actually the dude.
So what you're saying is that they needed to do something,
and
he was a Boy Scout more or less.
Yeah.
He refused to play the government game. If you look at all these drug dealers that get protected, if you look at the drug war, they have kickbacks, massive kickbacks. And if you look at Mexico, Long story short, you have this super cartel that pretty much runs the country, and you can thank the Justice Department for that.
But the thing is if he's not guilty, if it's if he's not Dread Pirate Roberts, then he needs to be released. Obviously, if he is the Dread Pirate Roberts, then he needs to be released and celebrated as a hero to the free markets, because that's entirely what that is you've got a decrease in violence associated with drug use. It decreases the usage overall. That was the whole reason that Bitcoin became the big thing that it is. All these different variables. So for that reason, Harlan actually put together this Indiegogo campaign, and I want to encourage folks to check this out if you haven't taken a look at it yet. It's if you go to Indiegogo and you pull up Free Ross, just in the search on Indiegogo, you'll come up with this campaign. I think there's 29 days left on it. It's at 20%. We're trying to raise $20,000 for Ross Ulbricht for the Legal Defense Fund, because it's sapped the whole family. It's every last drop. I mean, the houses are up, the cars are up, like everything's on the line right now to get this guy out of there. And so go check that out. It's Indiegogo, Free Ross, and contribute what you can, because it's like I said. I mean, the more you examine this case, the more all of that stuff kind of falls apart and everything as far as the government narrative. So I've got to get you a quieter keyboard over there.
I didn't supply the keyboard.
At any rate, but so that's kind of something that I kind of want to bring up with folks and have them kind of take a look at. At any rate, so Leland, what do you think about all this so far?
What about the Ross thing?
About the Ross thing?
I actually like to talk about a different subject than the Ross thing, because
you have something on your mind.
Well, if you look at like who government protects, I mean, with this whole IRS thing, they always go after the people that are the biggest critics, more or less. And for example, our fearless leader-in-chief Barry Davis is going to be once again back in Austin on the 9th for a fundraiser hosted by the ostentatious filmmaker Robert Rodriguez, and it's $5,000 to $32,000 a seat. That in itself would be okay. You're just complaining because you don't agree with him politically. Robert Rodriguez is taking $200,000 a year from the city of Austin to quote-unquote incubate feature films.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, I mean, what films has he incubated? In the meantime, he drives a six-figure Porsche Cayenne Turbo. He also got the state of Texas sued by his investors of Machete, and there's an interesting story about that. So there was all these states seem to be competing with each other to subsidize films. This is one of the many types of corporate welfare. For example, the city of Austin, in their brilliant minds, decided to give several $1 million to Apple for them to quote-unquote expand their campus, and they claim that there was another, I think it was Scottsdale, Arizona, was supposedly competing in and that was news to Scottsdale, but they wanted to give the money to Apple, the wealthiest corporation in the planet that doesn't need our tax dollars, but whatever. So Robert Rodriguez hosted the film subsidy bill that got signed in 2009, and yes, at the time I was stupid enough to support it, at his studio, and he mentioned Machete as one of the things he was doing. He made the movie knowing the restrictions on those subsidies, being that you cannot portray the state of Texas in a bad light. He more than likely misled his investors, because his investors are suing the state because they're being denied the subsidy. He claims he doesn't want any part of the lawsuit, but he probably more than likely misled his investors to thinking that there were going to be several $1 million in subsidies. I think it's like $1.5 million. I have to look that up.
Is this one of those things where I'm just going to learn more about the film industry that I want to know about?
Yeah, but also the fact that our tax dollars are partially subsidizing it. And you think about
but whatever, dude. I mean, the thing is I don't care. The fact of the matter is, it's all money stolen. It's all money stolen.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is that no one is looking into this to see, at the very least, ethics, if not tax violations. I mean, they go after someone who who screws up what 1 decimal point, and some people get audited for actually not requesting a bigger refund because they filled out a bad tax form. So they're getting audited because they forgot to say give me this refund.
Yeah.
But these guys are fleecing millions of tax dollars, and they're getting away with it and being rewarded with it.
Are you done?
Yes. On that particular thing, but yes.
That's another shoe.
Were you an octopus now?
Apparently, I'm gonna have to be a barrel full of them. No, but because my point is, dude, is it doesn't. Who gives a shit? Where it's, like whether it's homeless people or somebody buying a car,
well,
it's all money stolen. It's all money stolen. It's all stolen money. It's all under the threat of violence. It's all, and
nobody speaks up because they're afraid of getting blackballed. And in fact, you have these individuals controlling the gateway to the industry. So the fact that nobody is speaking up on this because they're afraid that they'll lose their spot. That's kind of screwed up, don't you think?
I don't know where did you fucking lead this, man? Where did you lead us with that? This is what I was afraid of, is that you would chase us down some rabbit hole of I don't know what. But that keyboard is like thunder in my headphones. That keyboard is like thunder in my headphones.
And I'm not even touching that. I'm not even touching them that heavily.
Okay, so anyway, so your big beef is just what they're spending. But don't you have a beef with how they're just the fact that it's stolen money to begin with?
Regardless, absolutely.
Regardless of where it's going.
Oh, absolutely.
What if they gave it all to puppies in Alpo?
Thing, because that would drive the price of dog food up. Think about it. Every single thing that is subsidized, education, healthcare, entertainment, it drives the price floor up because they're going like, oh, well, we're going to be guaranteed this much money so we can charge this person Y amount of money. Harlan actually says it best when he compares the cell phone industry to healthcare, where cell phones have gotten more technologically advanced and less expensive, versus healthcare where the quality has gone down and the price has gone up, especially if you're forced to buy it now.
God, I totally forgot what the hell we were talking about. Like, it's like ADD just goes into overdrive at this hour.
Well, you were talking about Ross beforehand.
Yeah, we were talking about that. We were also talking about something else. What the hell was I talking about?
You were talking about the silver stuff? You're talking about
it's
drugs.
Your job. It's supposed to be.
Because you were talking about drugs. This is all the stuff you were talking about.
No, hold on. I want to clarify this because this is the first show, and this is the time.
Right. But this is exactly.
This is the time to get this shit clarified.
This is what you were talking about. You were talking about the free market of drugs. You were talking about. You made a point about the Ross thing. Before that, you were talking about the guy that makes those silver those 1 ounce silver coins with the QR code.
Right.
And if you want to donate $100 to the show, you get that. That's.
He only made 1,000 of those, by the way.
He makes you get orders of 10, so there's only 100 people that can order those.
Yeah.
That is everything that we talked about in the past 20-25 minutes.
Okay.
That is everything that we talked about.
No, somebody just messaged me. They're listening to the show, and they had a comment on it.
And then there goes the whole focus thing again.
Does the focus keep going out when I move?
It's whenever I switch to me, it does this weird focus thing, and then yours is actually holding fairly constant.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I think you have the better camera as well, and I keep switching back because it's. You're futzing with the cigarette thing, the e-cigarette, I might add, which is nothing but. We're still on you, by the way.
It's
nothing but it's water vapor, and there's proven health benefits of.
It's 1:30 in the morning out on the East Coast. Like I'm okay with that. At 1:30 in the morning, me puffing on things I think is.
Well, if you look at 1980s movies, everyone up until about the mid 80s was smoking cigarettes, cigars, whatnot.
Honestly, it kills me that I can't smoke in here. It's
hours of lost productivity where you have to go outside and smoke.
Well, the thing is what I found is that I actually joked about this the other day because I tend to be a little bit scatterbrained sometimes. Like it's either on or off. It's either scatterbrained, just all over the map, or it is just laser focused on one thing, and you can't get me off it. And by the way, this was something I was going to say earlier, is that since this is the first show, this is where we want to get all the fucking kinks and whatever worked out. Is you need to keep me on task, not the other way around.
Gotcha.
So when I run off into the woods,
don't threaten to throw a shoe at me. It's like we got this little old lady who's just sitting right there in Little Red Riding Hood and whatnot, and all those little nursery rhymes with Al Bundy with a bunch of shoes he can't sell. I mean, good God.
I didn't even follow, but or maybe I'll catch it on the other side. But no, but yeah, I need you to keep me on target, not the other way around.
Well, then give me a bunch of shoes.
Oh, Lord have mercy. That actually wasn't bad. So the smoking, right? Thank you. The other day I sat down and I rifled out like 4 pages of material, and we're talking about like by hand, like writing down 4 pages of just one thing after the next, and it was but it was on the same topic, and it was on the same topic, and but which was remarkable for me. The fact that I was able to stay on topic for 4 pages, just scribbling it down.
You just said that you can get laser focused and only on that.
But you know what it was? Is I poured a glass of whiskey, and I went outside and I lit up a cigarette, and I just chain smoked and drank whiskey, and I was able to just stay on one thing just the whole damn time. And I'm kind of a joke about it. I said,
did you have jazz in the background too?
I might have. Entirely possible. Every once in a while, I kind of get in on some jazz. It's not like one of my favorite go-tos, but I do love it when I listen to it. The thing was, and I kind of joked about it. I said, like when I was a kid, I was kind of like right at the forefront of that whole designer drug ADD, that whole thing. So it was like, hey, is your kid talking, all over the place and bouncing around, and here's a Ritalin and then Tofranel and whatever else. And of course I never really took it. Like I was like, yeah, sure, I'll appease you and spit this out and the vent or whatever. I'd take it for like a week just to kind of give it a test run, and I was like, I don't think this is my thing. And but yeah, I kind of made the joke. I was like, I don't know why they didn't just give me whiskey and fucking cigarettes as a kid. I think it would have been a lot more productive. But
yeah, that definitely does help the radio voice too. I mean, that's the thing I have is I never really was a smoker.
I wish that we could do that. Like I wish that I could smoke in here. Maybe eventually we'll get a studio set up like that. Of course, everybody. We
would have to do it outside of the city. We would have to do it like in Fort Worth, for example. I was up there for the well, they said don't promote structure, blah blah blah. Up there for a convention, if you will. We lost on a lot of things, but we went to the stockyards. A friend and I that went up there, we went to the stockyards, and I was just, wow, you got plastic bags, and you can smoke in bars.
Oh,
and we haven't been able to smoke in bars in 10 years. You had this weird alliance of Republicans and strip club owners, getting back to Miss Knox, against the smoking ban that was up for the ballot. And so hopefully we don't get in trouble. If you look at the way elections are, you have like 4% of the population voting, of the entire population voting, and they're a very oppressive minority. So you have a lot of people complain, but they once again they don't get out of their groups, and they don't they like to complain to themselves, but they don't actually, most of the time they don't do anything about it.
Well, government, it's just oppressive in general. Like I said, I mean, I think I've kind of made my
the bag ban. So why don't you tell people in listening across the
this is a thing that exists.
A lot of countries have that.
This is really, they have nations.
No, excuse me, not countries. It should be a lot of major cities have this bag ban.
Okay, yeah. And
but I wouldn't be surprised if some more repressive countries have a bag ban. I mean, they ban guns. I wouldn't be surprised they ban sanitary plastic bags.
So this is a thing that kind of came up. The bag ban. I still don't really fully understand it. The concept is, and to me, it's very strange in general, because for starters, at the time when it was coming in, I was dating somebody that was big into the recycling, and they were kind of on the liberal side of things, and that probably should have been my first clue. But
stay focused.
Yeah, the so the we were kind of dating at the time and everything.
The bag ban, not about your sex life.
No, stop.
Okay.
That's a I don't even know how many shoes I'm up to. I have to do this thing out of a Payless. The whole thing with that though is she kind of got me in these habits of okay, yeah, we'll bring a bag and this and that, and kind of got me into the recycling thing and all this different stuff, and more so than I traditionally was. And the bag ban came along, right? And they said, okay, great, now we're going to use the violent force of government to demand that you do these things. And like that put a stop to all of it for me. Like the second that you say like I'm going to use violent force to make you do anything, like nose despite the face, like absolutely not. That will not.
And
fly.
If you look at the backdoor deals that came about this, which was a member of the city council, was it the mayor that had?
Yeah, the mayor's wife's sister, I think, is like a major holder.
The other thing to think about, these quote-unquote single-use plastic bags are not single-use. Everyone reuses them as trash can liners. They're made out of natural gas. They're fully recyclable. And the reason why they came about is for sanitary reasons, because how many people actually wash their reusable bags? So you have this disgusting bag full of God knows what you're taking back into the grocery store that takes more energy to produce. And then if you're actually washing, we have a water shortage.
Right.
So
there's all these different. Yeah. So there's all these.
It's counterintuitive to the environment.
But
tell about the shopping carts.
I was gonna tell them about it until you went on your tirade. Stop. I
they need a little backstory why it's counterproductive.
But there's and I kind of people were kind of on about it, and I was just like, no, there's this thing called unintended consequences. Haven't you heard? The bird's the word here. And they're like, oh no, it's good for the earth and blah blah blah. I was like, okay, do whatever you're gonna do. And so you get this is a thing that was happening where I was living, is you take a grocery store, and you surround that grocery store with apartment complexes. And what you end up getting is people walking down there, and they don't, they're not going to bring their bag or whatever they forgot, or so they take the whole damn cart, and they take the cart back to the apartment complex. Well, the whole point, the reason you walk down there instead of drove, is that it's just a short little jaunt. Well, if you have to walk down there, walk back, walk down there, and walk back again, it's no longer a short little jaunt. Now you're trying out for a triathlon.
Right. Exactly.
And so they won't do that, and so I have like just a phone just loaded with pictures, because I'd take one every time I saw it, just to kind of highlight the absurdity.
You had a dumpster full in one area.
And so they're just everywhere, just all the hell over the place. And now somebody has to drive around and grab these things up and everything.
Which aren't cheap.
But they're not. No, they're something like either $500 or $1,000. And I didn't believe it at first, but then you think of the individual weld points on these things.
All the metal, they have to be handmade.
And and so. Anyway, so you've got all these people doing this, but then they end up in creeks, and these shopping carts end up in creeks, and they end up in the one that I've got on my Facebook page is this is one that I saw. It was a shopping cart, 2 dumpsters in this apartment complex, and there's a shopping cart poking out of either one, and it's just like, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, for the environment, of course, because it's good for the environment. But it just kind of goes to show that there's not there's really not any position that you can take that you can centrally plan anything on and come out, because the market's always going to know better. I mean, what's fascinating to me is we were trending that way. We were actually trending towards this whole reusable bag thing. Like that was starting to become a thing, and people were I was starting to do that. Like, if I'm going to start doing, like, you know, because I'm like the laziest.
Because you're naturally going to say, let's try something that's a little bit of an improvement versus being forced that way.
Yeah, it was just like, okay, what the hell?
Well, if you look at television now, I mean, back in the '80s, if Cheers came out today, it wouldn't have survived because it's ranking yank. So it's if it doesn't score well in the ratings within the first week, they yank it. Cheers did terrible the first couple seasons, but they
really?
They gave it a chance, and it naturally found an audience.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you look at entertainment back then, which had a more of a natural progression. I know it keeps going back to entertainment, but that's my stronghold. Versus you have something now, which is they try to ram stuff down your throat. I mean, it's like that with everything. Less people are buying music. Less people are going out to movies. Television shows ratings are down. It's not just because you have more competition. Well, that's a contributing factor. But when you try to ram certain programs down people's throats and they don't give it a chance to organically get its own footing. It's just you don't have that. I mean, that's just
I was just rifling through just some stuff that I've jotted down because there's a bunch of different stuff that I kind of wanted to get into, but I totally forgot about it. Hello, microphone. How are you? And now you know. But yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I mean, and I'm glad we're kind of doing this sort of first run and kind of getting everything situated, figuring out where everything's at.
If somebody wants to donate an air conditioner, I'm sure Ryan will give you a happy dance or something like that.
I'll give you all kinds of things if you want to donate an air conditioner. It's so yeah. This is the other thing that kills me. That we're underground, under a Chase Bank here in Austin, and it's got to be like 85 degrees in here.
It's a vault.
Do you think? Is it like 85?
We have no windows. It's underground. There's no windows. The vault is actually literally.
And I'm granted it's Texas, but like I am not representative of the whole like Texan. Oh, it's hot and haha. Like I'm really not. Like I mean, I deal with it, but not with a smile, and not. I'm not like it's not something that I'm happy to do.
It doesn't help that the broadcast equipment generates a lot of heat too.
As a kid, I mean, I was trudging around in Colorado with snow up to my waist and bears in my backyard. Did I tell you about this? This was actually.
Why don't you tell the entire radio audience?
Well, no, this is I'm just kind of whatever. I do this show the way I'm doing this show the way that I do the other show, and that's just pretending like nobody's listening because I assume that if I'm talking,
oh great,
nobody is.
I actually have a view count here, and
don't
insult the audience.
Why would you tell me that?
Because I'm trying not to have you insult the audience. We want to have our listeners.
Okay. But well, maybe it's probably.
And see, there we got a view count that went up. So
I don't know why you tell me these things.
Well, like I said, more or less, this is. I hope we have the Cheers model versus the current network model, where it's like, oh, your ratings aren't that great. Cheers, the ratings were terrible, and it was one of the most beloved television series of all time, and it took how many seasons to do that?
So actually, speaking of Cheers, you know who is a self-proclaimed anarchist?
Who?
Woody Harrelson.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Woody Harrelson. You can pull it up. Pull it up on Google. Woody Harrelson. I'm an anarchist.
Also, Glenn Jacobs, who plays Kane in WWE, well, he's more of a libertarian.
And you know who else was actually an anarchist, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, I don't know. But was it C.S. Lewis?
Name sounds from just jog my memory.
Really?
Jog my memory.
Google it. I'm going to make you do the work.
I am going to.
I'm going to make an excellent parent, because when, like, if I ever have kids, I'm going to make it great, because that's what they always did, didn't they? They said, what's this? They said, look it up.
Just look it up on the internet.
They said, what'd they say? They said, like, look it up in, look in the dictionary or whatever.
C.S.
Now
Lewis.
you can just Google it.
C.S. Lewis, 1898 through November. Oh, he died the same day as Kennedy.
Just, yeah.
November 22nd, 1963.
Yep.
Oh, let me bring up my camera real quick because I want to have this on camera. So people could be all, oh, you didn't say that. Yes, I did. He got the Farrah Fawcett treatment with regards to her dying the same day as Michael Jackson.
Talking about Um, but no, he was another one that was self-described
You got
anarchist.
a fair fuss. Let's see. He was an academic. He was an academic at Oxford and Cambridge. That's unusual. A academic who's also an anarchist. They usually don't go hand in hand because academia basically it consumes government grants left and right to fund a lot of research, but also a lot of tenure.
You know, I'm pretty sure I'm C.S. Lewis. I could be totally wrong on that.
Let's see. He's known as Jack. He was a Jack, and he died on November 22nd, 1963, and was known as a novelist, poet, academic, medievalist, literary critic, essayist,
yeah, it was C.S. Lewis.
Leo-theologian, and Christian apologist? Christian apologist. Huh.
Yeah, it was C.S. Lewis, which was fun because my mom is big into.
Let me just make sure we're on the right. Yeah, we're on the right camera. Okay.
Yeah, so my mom's big into the Christian thing. She's like big into like she's church every Sunday, and I think was raised Catholic, and then she recovered from that. And but now is like on the Methodist thing, and she's big into it. She's real on the liberal side of it, but she's coming around. She's coming around, and she's big into the C.S. Lewis works. Like he's got a bunch of the Christian titles and such, and but I think she found that kind of surprising that one of her kind of beloved authors was also a self-described anarchist, and so I think it's difficult working with family on topics like this, and I think most people that are either libertarian or maybe anarchist or conspiracy theorist or something in that general proximity tend to know, but they're the hardest people to convince of anything, and we've had this dialogue before, and I think it's because these are the people that have seen you at your best. They've seen you at at the worst of times, and so it for whatever reason it tends to be sort of the hardest sell when it comes to the politics of it and things.
What are you getting at?
Oh shit, man! I was going somewhere and now I forgot.
Well, you were saying C.S. Lewis was an anarchist, and then you had this long-winded thing about.
But I think I think it's interesting because if you can introduce outside influences, like outside of the self, rather than having that dialogue with them and just say, either through peers of theirs or something else, and kind of otherwise you're looking at probably like a 10-year. Awkward 10 years of awkward Thanksgiving dinners and these kinds of things, trying to kind of.
You said Thanksgiving.
Drill the point home.
Well, the thing you said is Thanksgiving dinner is once again getting to structure. I mean, if you look at the entire year, even down to the months, you have structure. Like right now, it is getting back to entertainment. It's summer, so we have the blockbusters. Then in the fall, we get the artistic films that are Oscar bait. Then you have your Thanksgiving dinners where you begrudgingly go to your family every year, and you have the same traditions. You make the same food. Then you have Christmas, the same warmed over specials. This and that. People, I find it. What you were saying about Jeffrey Tucker saying that we're like one stage away from anarchy, but everyone seems to keep going back to some type of structure. It's almost like a comfort food or something like that. I mean, even down to as simple as most traditional talk shows, they have a structure. You have your opening monologue, then you have the guest, and you have the musical guest, and you have the credits. Or even the type of show we're doing. It's late night, and so we have a darkened set where it's kind of blue and we're kind of edgy. But if you did this in the morning,
are we?
Well, Letterman tried to do this initially back in 1980. He tried to have a late night show in the morning. In fact. And it bombed because bombed because people don't want to have edgy, hard, spiky stuff in the morning. They just want to be comforted, except occasionally the morning shock jock. But they want to have I want to have my bacon and my eggs. Why can't I have a cheeseburger? You go to fast food places. Most of them don't sell cheeseburgers until like 11 a.m. Why? It's like I want breakfast for you'll go dinner. I want breakfast for dinner. I want dinner for breakfast. Skip lunch. I'm on a diet. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Shoes, man, shoes. I'm gonna move to have this show broadcast out of a Payless. or a DSW or whatever has the most amount of shoes.
I'm surprised you're not saying it to me because it also has ammunition.
I don't want to go extreme. I'm a speak softly and carry a big shoe kind of guy.
What is your size, by the way?
I don't know, like 11, 12, one of the two. But
and yet you always wear sandals. You always wear sandals.
No, just when it's hot.
You wear socks too, or no?
No, God, with sandals? Are you kidding me?
Why would you wear
Lord
sandals?
have mercy, no. I just flip flops. It's not even sandals. It gives me the impression that it's like Birkenstocks or something. Come on. No, it's just hot. If I could walk around in the buff during this heat and like it not cause any issues, like I'd probably do that. It's 90 plus degrees outside with like 75% humidity. Like I don't appreciate that. Fortunately, of course, got the AC in the car finally fixed. We're having AC issues at the house that are sort of tamping themselves out. It's just like a certain period where it's like 85 degrees in the house, which is just too much for me to be comfortable.
Let me guess, in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah, it's like a little too much for me to be comfortable. And so anyway, I tried to, but I was having that issue, and then the AC here, of course, it's still warm here.
Here's the weird thing about it is I can explain the house. You have the sun beating down on the roof, and it's just radiant heat, and it's an older house, so you don't have a radiant barrier that reflects most of it. But we're in the basement, so this is almost like I don't know what to think of this. I remember an event back in January with Ben Fuchs, and this is the reason why Ben Fuchs is not going to be at the bookstore, but it's going to be at Houston Tillotson because it's a bigger venue in Austin, Texas. It was icing that day. It was icing that day, and it was 90 degrees down here because the place was packed. This place is one hell of an insulator. I mean, it killed.
It is a little bit. What were you just on about? I totally spaced out.
You were complaining about the air conditioning of the house, and it doesn't make any sense because we have a whole building on top of us to protect us from the sun.
When you get all jazzed, honest to God, I have the hardest time thinking. I really do. Are you a whiskey guy?
We got to bring down a bottle. I mean, it's almost like we're to the same poles. You have the two poles of the magnets, and they're kind of pushing against each other, kind of thing.
Like sane and insane?
Well, I meant that it's like we're both positive or we're both negative, and they both kind of do this. So I don't know. If you want to bring down, if any distillers want to sponsor the show, we'll be definitely for it.
Oh Lord. Seriously though, do you drink whiskey?
Not as much as I used to, as in like 10 years ago. I mean, I'll have a shot here and there, but it's the kind of thing that getting back to government.
Unless you bring up the whiskey rebellion next.
Close. The drinking limit. Think about it. People before they're 21, they binge drink like crazy in the limited opportunities. They're like, oh, this is illegal, and so this is a forbidden fruit, so I'm going to binge drink, and also I can't regularly drink this, so I need to consume as much as I have. Afterwards, it's like, whatever. Okay, it's like that's the ironic thing is that if you take away a restriction and reduce it from being a forbidden fruit, it actually loses a lot of its luster. I mean, think about it. When Obama tried to get Congress to ban guns, what did everyone do? Buy AR-15s.
You know who I wanted to have on, and I'll probably bring him on soon, was Joel, because he was over at Joel Williamson. He does the Alliance of Austin Agorists. I wanted to bring him on to kind of talk about PorkFest. He
just got back, so I bet he's exhausted.
Apparently, the Washington Post, according to this article that I'm reading, or somebody that kind of linked it, like on Reddit or something here, says they posted a little bit of a hit piece. The headline is "Inside the Libertarian Version of Burning Man: Guns, Booze, and Bitcoin." So it seems like Rolling
Stone actually did a hit piece on the gun culture. Well, I wouldn't call it a hit piece. I mean, they interviewed a lot of my friends, such as Terry Holcomb Sr., Jerry Patterson was interviewed. It's actually a very interesting read. Some of the other open carry guys, such as C.J. Grissom runs Open Carry Texas, which is we'll get into that next show. All the different factionalization between open carry and the different techniques and whatnot, because we only got about 10 minutes left.
Yeah, we only got about 10 minutes left.
But the fact is that the alternative media is turning into the media, and what we're doing, even doing this, we're broadcasting. We're doing more than people. What we were talking about at the beginning of the show, where you have your own little groups and you complain to your own little groups, but do you ever go outside your groups, and do you ever try to change anything outside your groups other than complain to your friends?
That's a whole other thing.
Well, I mean, that just kind of ties together what we had at the beginning of the show.
But actually, it is kind of an interesting point. That is one of the things I talk to people about when they come in, is that there's sort of these three pillars that really prop up the entire system and that allow for people to kind of run roughshod over over the world, and that's the ones of finance, media, and education, or education, media, and finance. And it's interesting that everything's kind of going through this shift right now, because you have education is really the strongest pillar of the three of them at this point.
It's the foundation. It's always been the foundation.
Well, it's where you start. You start with the kids and you go, hey, what do you believe in? I believe in the tooth fairy, and I believe in a famine that brings me gifts on the snow, and he rides on deer. And you go, oh, okay, great. It sounds like you're just ripe, just at the right age for me to tell you about this glorious thing called government. Come along, Tommy. And so in a sense, I mean, it's almost abusive.
Look at North Korea. Look at North Korea as an extreme example, where they have no outside point of reference, so they all think that Kim Jong-il was born on this mountain. I mean,
yeah, and there is some similarity there, but again, I get you. At no point have I gotten to do what I do.
What do you mean? You've been doing the whole thing. You've been doing.
No. If at a certain point I'll hit. If I spin my wheels for a second, it's like a muscle car. If I spin my wheels for a second and it doesn't really pick up traction, but I'm allowed to do it for a second, I hit traction.
This is going to be an interesting exercise, because you have a dual thing of trying to keep you focused, but also letting you do what you do. It's got to be that one interesting little moment, which I think all of us are going to be on this journey to see when we can actually find that fine line of keeping Dixon focused and having him die.
But getting back, trying to get back.
The three pillars: education.
Shit, man.
The three pillars: education, media, and finance.
Yeah.
And you're on about education, about the tooth fairy.
No, but education, media, and finance. And education is really kind of the strongest one that is that's holding this whole thing up. And but anyway, that's really what's holding this whole thing up. But right now we're kind of going through this transitive phase, because what's happening is you've got media now just in the last few years, and I attribute some of this to the Mayan calendar shift personally. I think it had something to do with it, just on an energetic, sort of shifty, scaly, whatever. But because it was only really right after that you really started to see people kind of coming out and saying, okay, through Rasmussen and Gallup and whatever, people kind of saying, they're getting most of their news online in kind of that free, fair, open environment, rather than through the traditional CNN, USA Today kind of avenues, right? And so that made a huge difference. Of course, we see that reflected in when we look at the war in Syria. They say, okay, great, we're going to go ahead. Here's a war in Syria. We've got the exact same play pattern formation on the field that we sold to you with Iraq, and so we're going to go ahead and he's a Hitler and he's gassing his own people, and we got to go in and we got to get him for God and country and puppies and apple pie or whatever the hell you got. And
98% of the population said.
And it was 9% approval rating for this.
I thought it was like 2%.
It was 9% approval rating for the Syria war.
And then with the ICE thing, everyone started questioning Iraq. Why that even happened?
But the whole thing is that goes to show the power when it comes to media. And now that that's being dissolved, I mean, the Federal Reserve System, of course, they own the AP and Reuters, and or at least in collusion with some of the other little networks, CNN, whatever. But so we see the power that that has. I mean, that averted an entire war, and now with Bitcoin coming out, and Mayor Amsel the Rothschild giving control of a nation's money supply, and I care not who makes its laws. It's like, okay, well, great. Now we're doing something different. Now, what if the nation says, this is this is not our currency?
Why don't you touch upon the Bitcoin magazine, like you touched on the last show? With the whole, what were they thinking with the?
I'm not gonna go there right now. I'm not gonna go there right now. That's another time, man. But at any rate, Bitcoin now, you have this is why I tell you, when I tell you, are you getting my thing?
No, I'm not getting your thing.
Are you on?
I'm because I'm monitoring the show mostly, so I get your thing like 5 minutes later.
Okay. Well, like I said, it's the first go at a show. Every single one of them kind of ends up like it's kind of messy. It's sort of like a birth. It comes out and there's a lot of kind of whining and crying and screaming and a little bit of, it's kind of painful. It's certainly not pleasant to look at. And there may or may not be blood. And but it goes through that period, and then it kind of gets its legs out, kind of under it, and starts to kind of develop some shape and form. So it is kind of interesting. I will be kind of interested to see how this develops, because there's a lot of interesting shit going on here. And so I'm kind of interested to see how that develops in the coming months and everything. But hopefully we'll see how it goes. It'll be an interesting little feedback period and kind of see what happens. But again, I guess we're kind of wrapping it up. How much time do we have left right now?
Probably about 3 minutes, just to be safe. It just clicked over 12:56, so I'd say we killed at 12:59. That's the central time, of course. So it's 1:56 and 1:59.
So
on the East Coast,
of course. But I think it's really cool. I mean, I'm excited about this. I think the kind of the switch up, the transition here to an audio and video thing. It's definitely a lot different than what I'm acclimated to in terms of just doing audio. And so I'm kind of getting a feel for that. But but as far as Voluntary Virtues Network and everything goes, pretty excited to be a part of this. Kind of, and I like that it's a late night thing, because it is definitely a different feel. Like it's a different audience at 2 in the morning.
Well, it definitely is, considering that the radio show doing Logos is actually a drive time show. So.
It's an interesting mix, but. Anyway, so that's more or less it. I just kind of want to round it out right now. Of course, don't forget, check out our friend Arlo over at Commodity Discs. It's commoditydiscs.com. You can check it out. Of course, if you donate $100 to the show, like I said, I for either shock collars or whatever we're going to do.
Don't forget to, if you're in the Austin area, to shop at Brave New Books.
Hey, what a guy. There it is.
BraveNewBookstore.com is not that much to the website. The Facebook page has got a little bit more to it. But if you're into vitamins, such as Tangy Tangerine, Enerfood, organic soap,
salesman,
purchase them even with Bitcoin, and alternative literature, come on down. Yeah. So it's been here since 2006.
And
you got the last minute.
There it is. So with about a minute to go, yeah. So if you've tuned in, you actually sat through the whole thing.
2 hours.
There's a no refund policy. So sorry.
We can't refund your time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. But what we can do is, if you want to donate $100 to the show, you can get yourself one of these commodity discs, commoditydiscs.com. They will go ahead and get you situated with one of these. They have otherwise, the only way you can get a hold of them is a limit of 10 per order. And so there's only 1,000 of them, so not a whole lot. But it's got a little QR code on it. You scan it, gives you the real-time value of it. Brilliant idea as far as silver goes. And then I guess next week maybe we'll try to get Joel on. I'm going to try to bring him on to kind of talk about PorcFest, tell us all about that. see how that went. And yeah, so I guess that's more or less the show, isn't
That's
it?
it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, night, Leland.
Good night.